Welcome back to Behind the Veil podcast, where we do an in-depth look behind the scenes of Super Ammunition, ourselves as business owners, what we do, how we grow the business, how we affect community culture and the society. Today, joined as usual by Taylor. What's going on, Taylor?
All right, so today we have a Q&A. Switching it back, but
Back to Q&A.
back to Q&A. But what's new with you first?
Not too much. A lot of traveling, unfortunately, but good for business stuff. We're getting closer to the move. I was just over at the new facility today. They finally got all the permitting done. They're closing up the plumbing, starting to close up all the walls. Shit's getting serious. I think in the next couple of weeks, we'll be ready to start moving. We'll probably wait till after the 4th of July, all that craziness, and then the fun trek of moving the entire company again for the second time in 2 years, 2 or 3 years, and hopefully this space will hold us for 2 or 3 more. It's a good problem to be growing at the rate that we're growing, but it's also a whole mess of stress. So that's what's been going on with me, and a lot of future expansion stuff. So we're not only just moving, but we're expanding our manufacturing and bringing on new processes and hiring new employees, and there's a lot to it. I typically don't just do one thing. We've got 4 or 5 irons in the fire right now. When every time we make a change, I make a big one. So that's what's going on with me. What about you?
Not a lot. Marketing's growing and just making plans that way, trying to keep the kids wrangled in for summer break and escape the heat that we have here. It's like an oven right now in Vegas. So
Yeah, it's like yesterday, it's like 112, but it had like 20-mile-an-hour winds, so it was just a hot blow dryer.
yeah.
And yeah, that's one thing excited the new facility. At our existing facility, we're so maxed out on power that we had to steal the power from our swamp coolers. We have 8 swampers in our facility, and we can only run like 2 of them because we needed power. So I have like floor units running. But when it's hot and windy to open doors for circulation, then you get hot blown in. The new facility is like new with all new AC, swampers, everything. So the crew is looking forward to, staying in probably the 80s instead of 100+ degrees inside the manufacturing with all the machinery. We spent the weekend for Father's Day up at the cabin up in Utah. So try to get up there where it's 70 degrees, 60 degrees, not 120 as much as we can.
Yeah, try to escape,
But
get out of the desert.
yeah, and then just avoiding everything that's going on in politics and everything else so I don't go crazy.
That's one of the best things about going up to the cabin is you have no cell phone reception. So
Yeah,
it's
no
like
cell
you get to
service,
disconnect.
no social media, no nothing.
Yeah, it's back to old school.
Just
the
nature.
cabin's kind of primitive, so we're just like outside, just
Yeah, a lot of
living
fishing,
it up.
a lot of riding side-by-sides, dirt bikes, quads, and just showing our kids the way we were raised, giving them that exposure, getting them off the Fortnite and making them get outside.
Yeah, for sure. It's
All right, so
important.
what is this, episode 5?
Episode 5.
Okay, and we're doing a Q&A today.
Yep, Q&A. So as always, these questions are blind. You don't know anything about them. User submitted. So for the future, if you want to submit a Q&A, you can visit our Instagram or you can go on our website, superveilammunition.com/podcast, or just click on the podcast link on the main toolbar and submit a question there. We're open to anything that you may want to see or want to know. We're here for you to pick our brains. So let's get into it. First question. So this one is, what makes the solid copper hollow points better than the other hollow points on the market?
Okay, across all platforms. So first, the good comparison would be the JHP. So Supervel invented the jacket hollow point. So everyone selling defensive ammunition understand or buying it that Supervel actually is the original inventor of the JHP bullet design. Before that, it was like wad cutters, soft lead stuff. With that being said, there is superior technology in solid copper. So the challenge you have with a jacketed hollow point is when it comes to barriers. You get delamination, separation of the cup and the core of the jacket and the lead. There is bonding, and a lot of companies bond their jacketed hollow points to help bind it together. But it's still softer, and so it doesn't perform as well through barriers. The advantage of a jacket hollow point is it's cheaper than a solid copper. So solid copper, you'll hear the term monolithic solid copper. So monolithic as in its uniformity as one. It's not a multi-piece. It's not lead and then a copper jacket. It's 100% 100% solid copper. For us in testing and when we switched and started doing heavily into solid copper was purely just comes down to performance and terminal ballistics. We can make a more accurate bullet due to the way it's manufactured, and we can do a lot more to the bullet as far as design to get it to do a whole variety of things that you just can't do with a typical cup and core JHP or FMJ or whatever. And then through the barriers, that's where it separates it. So when you're machining copper, making those bullets, there's different tempers of metal mixture and, all your alloys for different hardness. So, pistols you're going to use, I'm not going to say exactly what it is, based on velocity and how you want it to expand. Do you want it to fracture? Do you want it to hold together? How is that going to work? And then when you get into rifle, same thing. So there's a slew of different copper that you use. And then there's some tricks to the manufacturing of it, whether you're cold heading it, which is a much faster process but very limited, or your CNC Swiss turning. So a CNC Swiss turn is actually a CNC machine. Think of a lathe. It's a lathe, a big-ass lathe that's 30 feet long that takes copper bar, and we'll start showing a bunch of video as we get reset up in the new factory of this. That takes copper bar and feeds it into the machine, and then it's completely programmed to CNC cut each bullet individually, and it's spinning on an axis, so you end up cutting way more accurately, and you're really more limitless on design. So when you see companies that make like the external hollow points, those are done on a CNC Swiss lathe. Most of your solid copper, when you get in a rifle, is CNC turned. There's some of it that's cold headed. I don't want to get in the explanation of how to tell the difference. The cold heading process is more affordable, and for basic functionality of projectiles, you can cold head because you can your output. So, if I turn like the 300 Blackout, that's one we're working on, a 300 Blackout 200 grain Hush Puppy solid copper, big expanding, double expanding, like 100% weight retention. That bullet takes almost like 38 seconds to spin on a Swiss. If I were to cold head that bullet, it would be way inferior on performance, but I could bang out almost one every a second to 2 seconds. Like it's a way more efficient process. But then with the cold heading, we do other things with heat treat and roll size and stuff, but you're very limited on it. So Swiss turning solid copper is the superior. It just costs a lot more to do. Rifle loads, we Swiss turn. Pistol loads, some will Swiss, some are cold headed. Solid copper as a consumer, as a performance. So a lot of the trend, it's EPA, lead-free, no exposed lead, no lead at all in the projectile. So that's a big deal. But on a performance sense, it way outperforms it. The challenge is where the consumer side, and sorry if I dive way too deep in it, but this is the TISM side of Mike. The consumer side, the confusion is in relation to velocity and mass. So understand that solid copper being less dense is about 30% more, takes up 30% more case space. It's about 30% longer. So 115 JHP compared to 115 grain solid copper on 9 mil. The solid copper is quite a bit bigger. It's going to take up quite a bit more case space. So your limitation on the loading of a solid copper projectile is when it comes to pressure. So like our 115 grain SCHP plus P is only going 1250. Not only, that's screaming for what it is. A JHP variant of that at the same pressure could go 1325. It could go faster. You'd have more muzzle energy, stuff like that. But the side of education of the customer is on the terminal ballistics that it does not always come down to that. It comes down to the bullet technology and the design of the bullet. And a perfect example would be the 115 grain. So the 115 solid copper 9 mil plus P to the 115 Hush Puppy. One of them is going 1250. The other one is going like 1025. Same exact weight of bullet. The penetration difference is maybe an inch. Both of them pass the FBI standards through all common barriers. One is subsonic, almost 225 feet slower, but you're getting 15 inches of penetration instead of 16. And that just comes down to the technology side of the metals, the materials used with the copper, and how it's manufactured. So you don't always have to push it crazy hot. And why that hush load's so popular is people carrying small, compact, like their summer carry. They don't want a plus P super hard, hot hitting, hard to manage. And the JHP side, to get that bullet to perform, it has to be pushing that fast to get that penetration, that expansion. Solid copper doesn't. It's a way harder externally. We do some secrets for the expansion, but you don't need to push those velocities to outperform it on terminal ballistics. So it's less wear on your gun, easier to manage, way more accurate to shoot, and it outperforms. So we put that across the board on all the offerings you'll see that we sell. Is we kind of lean, train, compete, defend. So we want a training load, we want a competition load, and we want a defensive load. And some of them have a hand, like 9 has a shed ton of training options, a shed ton of competition options, and 3 or so defensive options, and that'll be growing as well. So that's kind of a little bit on solid copper. There's obviously a lot more to it, but terminal ballistics is what people need to look at, not weight and velocity, because we can prove and show it in testing and studies showing it. When you guys see the external hollow points, it's like G9 makes a good one, Lehigh makes a bunch, like the corkscrew screwdriver style. That has to come down. The external hollow points are great through barriers, and it comes down to fluid dynamics. So when you see that cupping kind of coming up, basically as it hits soft tissue or fluids within the body, it's creating that shock wave to push out for the permanent and temporary wound cavity. And it's more of a shock thing. So you'll see those pushing at a faster velocity. We don't do those. We like the traditional full expansion. We're maintaining 100% weight retention, which you don't do with a JHP. But all of our pistol loads double caliber expansion. So like the 45 expands all the way to 0.90 with 100% retention. All of our pistol offerings and rifle all meet full expansion within a half inch of penetration, which is pretty wild. So we're dumping energy a lot sooner. We're maintaining that expansion through the full travel of the bullet, creating a much bigger permanent and temporary wound cavity, because we're still getting that same level of shock, but more shock, because now instead of being hit with, say, 0.545, you're getting hit with like 0.90 at the same velocities. We still perform through barriers, and that's not something I'll talk about. So a lot of the external hollow points are designed that way because they want to perform through barriers. You can do the same performance through barriers with our style of hollow point. I'm not going to leak it because I don't want them to rip off our secret sauce, but it has a lot to do with the makeup of the materials. We'll just say that. And then expand on soft tissue and get your penetration. My avoidance of a lot of the external hollow points is the over penetration. So if you hit a soft target, it'll rip right through that and the next one after. Customers like them because they're like, oh, I can punch through a car door and get penetration. So can I. I can punch through a windshield and not get too much deflection. So can I. But when I hit, yours is staying the same size as the bullet, and mine's doubling its size. Plus 4 to 6, depending on the bullet, sharp cutting pedals that are rip saw shredding. So that's why we like the solid copper, is all this nerd stuff I'm telling you guys about we can do. And the new facility is going to allow massive expansion in this area for us on a manufacturing side. Not to go too much, but you guys will get to see it soon. A lot of stuff I've been keeping quiet because it's competition at the end of the day, and no one likes to know that I'm coming for them. But the reality is, with us growing American manufacturing, we have to make the decision of, do we rely on our vendors and them gouging, and then where are they sourcing their metals and how are they manufacturing? The more we can vertically integrate, the more we will across the board, and that's what we're doing. And some of the solid copper stuff we can do in-house. Some of it we haven't been able to, but now we'll be doing everything in-house across the board limitlessly. So there's a lot of growth in that. But, yeah, that's the solid copper side. It does cost more money. So when you're looking at it on the website, anyone who's making a solid copper projectile, it's always going to cost more money. It literally costs more money. if you look at like trading just the raw materials, copper costs more per pound, and there's no lead in it. It's just pure solid copper. Plus the machining and manufacturing process is slower. So what we look at it though is it performs way 100 times better. And when you're buying something for defensive, are you gonna gawk over a couple bucks when its intention is to save your life, your family's life? So, yeah. What else you got on solid copper, or anything I said that triggered a question or concern or comment?
So you kind of answered all the questions that I had. I was gonna bring it back around to like the new facility, and I know there's a lot of every time I do these questions, we get like a Q&A on Instagram. We get questions about like, are we going to do this round? Are we going to do that round? Are we going to do this round? And I know in time those things will happen. So if you're a viewer that submitted those questions, we're not evading them. It's just making plans and.
Well, I oftentimes, it seems like we can be a bit all over the place, but as a company, we're a bootstrapped company. Bootstrapped is, and we within organically have built the company. We're not going and pulling a bunch of funding, investors, and finance. We're bootstrapping our brand. So when we look at adding a new caliber, a new load, new machinery, it's a much longer thought out process, but at times something else has to sacrifice. So, earlier in the year, we talked about a lot of the larger rifle stuff and getting into those calibers. But when it comes to a decision of, hey, we're going to move to this new facility, and I can add, some 308, 300 Win, 6.5, some of the other bigger stuff, look at the PRC stuff, look at the ARC line of stuff. I definitely want to do all of that. But when I also look at, or I can put that into machinery to further vertically integrate. So when we do that, we can do it with all of our production, because one of the hardest things as an OEM, as a manufacturer of munitions, if you're dependent on other manufacturers, you're dependent on their quality, you're dependent on their price, and you're dependent on their lead time. And as I look at some of the more PRS, precision hunting, big defense stuff, that quality is a must over everything. Like 9mm, you can get away with some stuff on ball ammo, but when you come into a bullet traveling at those velocities that you want to shoot sub-minute at distance, the companies that do it right, you're paying a pretty penny. And then when we look at sales, that's where the decision comes like, well, we could buy the machinery and do it ourselves. So that's why the decision to hold off on some of the new caliber. People have asked about 7.62. We've done the testing and development on almost all the questions people have asked about those loads, and we have the capability of doing it, and it will happen in time. But by us positioning ourselves and further vertically integrating, when it comes time to do it, we can offer a better quality product at a better price to the consumer, because we're cutting out a lot of the manufacturing that we're paying a premium for and getting bent over by everyone who makes solid copper. Rapes the consumer market. Absolutely. So this will shake things up, because that's not our intention. So with some of the calibers asked, 308, 6.5, 7.62, 3.9, we have the capability to do those, and we will in time. And hopefully it'll be in 2025, maybe early 26. Note that with the addition of, the expansion of the Swiss solid copper, I'm not going to talk about it too much, but there's other components we're going to be manufacturing and getting into in the new facility. Each one of those things are a business on their own. There's companies at the size we're doing it that's all that they do. We are adding multiple of those, plus full retail and expansion on our retail, and then OEM sales of components and other stuff too. So with the move and all these things, not to make an excuse, but I'm basically expanding and growing 3 additional businesses at the same time of moving the company. The reason I'm doing that is so when we offer all these new offerings, we could have security in doing it at a better price, and we can control the quality and the customer service. It sucks when you make ammunition and a customer has an issue and it's something that's completely out of your control that you can't even catch in QC. And it's other manufacturers' quality. And we pick the best and try to work with the best, but you pay that. So if we can do just as good or better at a better price, it'll pass to the customer and it'll make us more versatile and have way more offerings for you guys. So that's my transparency on some of the loads, and people want different stuff. It's like patience and time. We'll get there, and right now a lot of the stuff just there's no sense in doing anything for the next 2.5 months for us because of the move and settling and setting up the full retail and a bunch of new stuff coming. So
yeah, with the new stuff too, you realize, customers hopefully realize this, like we can't just ease into anything because our needs are already so high. So we really have to hit the ground running and at full force just to keep up with ourselves.
yeah,
So it really is a big deal.
Moving a manufacturing facility without any stop of production. I've done it now 3 times, so I know the method to do it, but that is a nightmare. Yeah. Most would shut down. For the amount of machinery, they would shut down for at least a month to 2. So like our plan is to not have a single lapse in orders, a lapse in fulfillment, shipping, really lapse in anything. The only inconvenience is the locals that come in are just going to have to drive 2 more blocks, to a different facility. But that's definitely a challenge, and we don't want people to even know. There shouldn't be any hiccup to even know that things have moved. If you're a customer, shipping an item, you wouldn't know a difference. Like most of you probably don't know that we've grown or moved 3 times in 5 years, because we don't, unless you're following along, we're talking about it, we don't let operations miss a beat, because the quality of the product and customer service is our number one priority, and we do the hard work around that to make it. It's 20-hour days, 7 days a week for a couple months straight, so that way we don't have that lapse.
Yeah, it's wild, but that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Kind of leads us into our second question. So a lot of the reasons that you just explained that we make the decisions that we do is to withhold our product's quality and the standard that we set across the board.
Uphold.
Did I say that?
You said withhold.
Oh, wow. Uphold.
That's okay.
No sleep. In case you're wondering, our 2-year-old still doesn't sleep through the night. So, yeah, my brain's half functioning. All right. So, second question. I have never seen another ammo company with core values. What inspired you to create those values and share them with us, the customer?
So it's not as big, which I don't understand why. Like a company's mission and their values and their core values, there's in the gun industry in general, I could think of not even a handful that talk about it, that communicate and build their brand that way. It's much bigger in other industries, and fitness especially. Anything in like wellness and health, where you're looking more for like empowerment, where their business model is to better people, to whether it's through fitness or supplementation or diet or health. They talk about core values a lot more, being that those are values to better you as an individual. So for me, with the background in a bunch of different stuff, the core value thing, we've always had our values, and our core values, I've had those values since I started. Now, they may have slightly changed and been modified. Definitions have grown as perspective has changed as I've gone through business. But, our first company, I started when I was 18. So the values, you build a brand, and this is a big separator from corporate to mom and pop and wherever in between. So my goal with any brand is to execute on a corporate level, as in the versatility and buying power and the moves we can make are structured to do that. But I want the mom and pop, I'm your friend, family operations and feel. So our structure as a business, we're not corporate. We don't have an executive department. We don't have, all that. We keep it very tight knit and very vertical to where things don't get lost, things don't get messed up. But we also build our core values down to beliefs, and how we behave and everything we do is the guiding principles for the business. So if you're looking at core values and what a core value is, so you have your company's mission, and that's kind of defining the mission. Like your mission set, like this is our mission as a brand in our company. And mission statements can change too as we evolve. Ours will. The core values are kind of the guiding principles. Like if you're religious, think of the 10 Commandments. They're like the do's and don'ts and how we behave and how we operate. How a company like SuperVal utilizes those core values is, first off, everyone has to live by them at the top, because I would be a hypocrite to not 100% embody those core values. So those core values are my personal values because I'm the leader of this team. Those are my values. Those have been mine since 2018, and they've been established that way. Every business that I've built was built around those core values. When we make decisions, or I make decisions, or anyone within that has decision-making power, we reference the core values. So when we hire someone, they cannot work here if they don't abide by our core values. When we terminate someone, it is directly in relation to violation of a core value. When we write someone up or reprimand something. So the core values give you a base level for all your employees, but also your customer, to understand where you stand. So our core values let our people know this is what we expect. This is how we operate. This is why we do it, because that's what your core values answer. If you look at our core values, first one, like extreme ownership. What's the last one? Believe. Okay, so you have a gap from extreme ownership and, having pride, having passion, building discipline. The last thing being believe. It's my job to paint the vision for our employees, our brand, and our customers to believe in our mission and all of our core values. And if you believe and follow those, the goal can be accomplished. We take it a little bit further on our core values, and we communicate them. There's companies that have core values that don't talk about it. There's a lot to do with accountability when it comes to core values. So every Monday morning meeting, we have a big company meeting where I talk anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes, depending on the topic. We always do educational. We always do, I don't want to say inspirational, but every week we go through a core value on repeat for 5 years that I've been in here. And they get to hear the definitions over and over, not to brainwash, but to ingrain and remind them of what our core values are, why it's important, and what we're doing. And then I take the time to paint the vision and the bigger picture so our employees get to see the purpose of why those things matter. Core values, if you look at our core values, it may not make sense to you because you don't have the perspective or understand the end goal. But what I can say is, if you work for me or with me and you abide by those core values, we have always reached our goal. And it comes down to, leaders of men and women, where they fail in entrepreneurship is they don't clearly line this out, to where people come into the company and not knowing their limits or their boundaries, or they don't have a direct path. So our mission dictates our direct path. Our core values guide us on how to get there. And then our planning shows us the roadmap. And it's all kept in bounds with our core values. So whenever there's like a hard decision to make, that's what I'm still to this day. That's what I reference to help me decide. And it's never, failed. And even with the employees. And then where we go even further than that is we encourage our staff to live that lifestyle outside of work. So humans have nature of how they just naturally are. What is someone's nature? If someone's naturally an aggressive person, type A, you'll hear people say type A, type B, beta, alpha, a passive, passive individual. Maybe they're passive aggressive. Maybe that's things of nature. To change someone's nature is very challenging. But to work here, you have to have a certain type of nature, because the way that I run and we operate and the way the company's going to grow, you can't be lazy. You can't be sloppy. You can't pee on the toilet seat because I'll fire you. You can't make messes. You can't not pick up after yourself. You have to have extreme ownership. You have to have discipline. You have to have pride. The level of commitment that I expect out of our staff, if they don't live that way personally, they're not going to do it in this business. So my goal is to educate and inspire and encourage our staff, whether they stay here. A lot of them have moved on to aircraft mechanics and all types of other great things, that they're better than when they leave here. They're better off than when they got here. And then they can use those principles to become successful at anything in life. But if they stay here, they're the ones that are going to create the growth, because I can't do it all myself. So I need to pass on that part of me to them and get them to live by that while they're here at work, but while they're at home. If they're not a responsible individual at home, they drag those problems to work. So not only am I trying to better American manufacturing and better American employees, the culture shift. So core value number, I think 5, community and culture. That's that aspect of it. I'm building community and culture within to go out and influence and make a difference in the world in community and culture. It's the butterfly effect. So if I build respectful, honest, hardworking individuals with high integrity and high values, and they take that into their home, they influence the people around them. They strive for excellence. They set a new bar and standard in society. They stand out. More people want to be like them. It betters the community and the culture in the world. And that's the only way, is like holding core values across the board, across brands. If you own a brand and you don't have core values, you should really consider establishing them. On the marketing side, it's great. We talk about it, but we also communicate that way to our customers. We hold our customer service within our core values. If you do business with us and you don't like our core values, please don't do business with us. That's how I truly feel. I will fire customers all the time. Customer service will bring something to me and they're disrespecting our staff, and I'll just be like, be done with them. There's something like, customers always right to a point. If you disrespect our values and our beliefs, then there's plenty of other ammo companies you can go do business with. But on a brand sense, it is refreshing because so many companies don't hold that and they're just chasing the money, not the difference. That's my personal calling, which I've said before. It's not just to build $100 million brands or whatever on a finance side. That doesn't matter. What matters is the culture shift, the community. That's why we're doing this podcast. It's the empowerment of the people, because that's where society's completely fallen apart. And that's why our brand's growing so quick, is because it's refreshing, because the more we talk about it, the more people hear it, the more they want to be a part of it. I'm getting applications every single day from top quality people. And the longer we've done this and the more we've talked about it, the crap doesn't apply. Like, they just don't even apply because they know can't work here. And it sounds harsh. And this goes back like 30 years. Like, if you show up dirty, fat and out of shape, you're naturally, potentially, based on your nature, a lazy person, and you won't survive. If you're sloppy, if you don't have discipline, I'm not going to let you touch $1 million machines. If you're of that nature that I can read you within 10 seconds of talking to you, don't waste your time coming here. For those of you who want to work for us, if you come in here and understand there's a standard that has to be held, and if you don't, you just won't stay here. And that's just what it is. It's nothing personal, but it kind of is, that I want personal excellence within my company, because that's why we've scaled as quickly as we have. Not me. I'm just steering the boat. It's the personal excellence of our staff, of raising the bar. And no one's perfect. Everyone's a work in progress, but I have to see effort. So there's individuals that we've hired that, or employed, that don't hit 100% every core value. No one's going to. They're a continuum of growth, and it's based on perspective and life experience. But if they're willing to put in the time and dedication, and we can see that, we will assist them on that journey to make them a better individual. So that's why we have our core values, is it's a societal impact thing on community difference. We can do it within our workforce, and we can encourage our staff and our customers to live by those, or something similar, to come up with their own, because that's what will better community and society and make a true difference in the world. That's why we say more than ammo. So that's where more than ammo really is from. The ammo is a gateway to my purpose, which is community. So
That's good.
Okay.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. Drop this thing.
I can say too.
It's not a mic drop, because I say that
That's
every
the
day.
truth. Yeah,
We communicate this every day. We think this every day. We're trying to put it more in branding, to help inspire. That's the inspiration side of the branding, to inspire people. And it's refreshing with today's society and the number of cowards in our community, men that want to be women, women that want to be men. People are confused of who they are, where they're going, what they're doing. Their core values, if they don't have religion, if they don't have a guiding principle and purpose in their life, try mine. Look at ours. They may not be right for everyone, but at least it gives you a path to go on and to develop your own and to learn how to be more introspective. Today's society, when you walk outside, is there's no introspection. Everyone thinks their shit don't stink and that they're best. And majority, if you look at, the kids now, I can say that at 35, these young whippersnappers under 30, it's my generation too, millennials, Gen Z. they're delusional, because the disconnect of what hard work and ethics and respect and honor is dead. So when I expose that and I require that, it's a gut punch to most people because it's an extreme now. It's not the normal. 30 years ago, that was the standard. That standard's dead, and it's very hard to find people that hold that standard. But what I can say and what I show our staff, if you hold that standard, you will win. You stand out. You are now the oddball, but you are crushing everything because the competition sucks. It's just laziness. Everyone's tied into the social media, and they're looking for, other people's approval for the likes instead of just building relentless passion and drive and determination and hard work and getting what you want. And this is how it's done. And we may be rare in that sense, but that's why we have core values. Because me personally, I can't be around people that don't hold close to the same level of standard and commitment. Even if it's not, I respect people that hold passion. Even if it's something I don't agree with, I respect the passion and commitment and the truth of why they do that thing. To me, it's guns, ammo, family, business. To them, it may be butterflies. I don't care what it is, but it's that level of commitment, desire, drive, and passion that'll change the world. And now with all the tariff crap, America's in freaking trouble because we got a bunch of lazy bumps. The working class that grew up this way are now in their 50s and 40s, and they're retiring, and we're left with a bunch of losers. And the same thing on the military side. The ones who went and fought, they're now in their 40s. That's now, what are we going to do, if we get into stuff? So soft times create weak men, right? We've been in hard times. We need to create hard men. That's my way of, within my ecosystem of influencing that.
I can say too on the marketing side, because I handle all the affiliate sponsorships and anybody that's emailing, you're getting me. People always, I won this or I did that. They send me like all these accolades or
accolades.
What is up with me in my speech today? Or do you just like correcting me?
No, you said accolades.
Okay. Anyways, it's my accent. No, I was kidding.
Okay.
Okay. Anyways, so they'll send like, their awards, or I have this many YouTube subscribers or whatever it may be, but you can look or if we know that person personally from range time or whatever, like we've both been in this for a while, you can look and see instantly, do they abide by our core values? Like I'm not looking for the top winners. I'm not looking for,
we have them.
We already have that in this space. We're looking now more than ever. We're looking for the people that abide by what we're doing, these core values. You can tell instantly. So
they have to buy in. They have to be good human beings. If you're a representation of our brand, you have to live it, whether you're working here or you're a contractor of ours or you're a sponsored shooter of ours. You have to abide by that with
there's
brand.
A hard line. Yeah.
And if you don't, or things evolve and you don't evolve with this, it's not personal. It's like, hey, there's no more alignment.
Yeah.
If you were wearing our colors on our brand, this is what is required. And if you don't, or you slip off that, okay, have a nice day. Things aren't working out. We've grown apart instead of growing together. The core values help us stay in alignment together, because having been a professional shooter and sponsored shooter on the sponsored side, like, you don't know, brands don't communicate this. It's like, no, this is how we are and how we operate, and this is what we expect. It's refreshing as an employee for a company to just blatantly, even if it's harsh, line it out what's expected, because then at least you know where you stand instead of just, fluttering through wondering if you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. So the core values really hit on any level that has a human involvement. There, the core values attach.
All right. Last question.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. This may not be a good time to ask this one because we already talked about stress, but here we go. It's no secret that an entrepreneur takes on a lot of stress. What do you do to stay focused and de-stress?
I don't know.
Is that even a thing?
What are you talking about? Well, so the reality is entrepreneurs, there's always going to be stress. There's never going to be balance. That does not exist. The balance is what you make it. what's your definition of balance? It ebbs and flows based on what you're doing. The hard thing with us is I don't settle. I don't like things calm. So I think I'd maybe mentioned this in the past, but I enjoy, as much as it may not seem like it, challenging things. When we core values, like we do hard shit. And I'm the type of person, because you're asking me how I handle stress, I get bored very quickly. And the more I do business, the more I get bored very quickly, because the better my skills become to where I can accomplish the task quicker. So I like constantly being challenged. And how I avoid the stress is I become obsessive about the process, and I enjoy the process. If you're doing something that sucks, but that's what business is a lot of time. You just do a bunch of crap that you don't like. My job as an owner is to constantly be brought problems, and it's an issue that an individual had, say with the machine, that their superior couldn't figure out, that the operations manager couldn't figure out. By the time it gets to me, no one in here can figure it out, and it's up to me to deal with it, from HR to whatever. So as an owner, as an entrepreneur and owner, the bigger the brand gets, the bigger the company gets, I'll say the bigger the problems, but the more crucial they become and the more detrimental they can become. And there's a lot of weight that lies with that. For me, one thing that I do is I constantly look forward. I reflect a little bit, but I constantly visit my vision board and my purpose. Because when there's times where you just don't want to get out of bed, which is all the time, and you just feel like quitting, which is at least once a week, I have to remind myself of why we're doing this. And that's why in the past I said it has nothing to do with money, because if it had to do with money, I would have already stopped. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with the purpose. So I use my personal purpose and goals and achievement goals that I'm trying to accomplish as my driving force when things get stressful and tough. And then you hear it all the time. I don't even want to be here today. I'm done. Just this morning, I left and went to a gun range to deliver some stuff, some free swag, and got out to try to clear my head to lock back in, because people rely on me and depend on me. So at some point, the stress is just there. And in the beginning, when you first start in business, the small things that we now laugh at stress you, and you thought the world was going to end. And then you get through it, and then you become hardened, and then you learn perspective, and then you build the tools, and you remember how to navigate. So the next time it's easier than the next time. Before you know it, it no longer stresses you, because you have bigger fish to fry. So there are big things now that are happening that are uncharted water for me, that are like big life-changing things. Not my life, all my employees' life. That's a different kind of stress. When it's just you, and when you mess up and it's only going to affect you, that's one thing. But when you make a mistake and it could ruin 100 people's lives and their families, that's a whole different level of stress. I don't have any vices other than, like, I'll go work out. And this is just different for every individual's psychology, but some people, they drink, they smoke, they eat. I am a masochist in the sense that I want it the most challenging and difficult and the hardest way. I don't want it easy. And I've taken the harder path many of times because I love when I break through. The reward for me is on the other side, to be like, I could have taken a shortcut. I could have taken a handout, but I didn't. Because if you look at my alignment with our pride and our passion, my pride, passion, and goals, it's that much more fulfilling to do it this way. Even if it takes a little bit longer, I know that I've put more tools in my tool belt and I've done the challenge a lot harder. And it might not be the smartest way, but it's what keeps me locked in. It's what keeps me focused. If it's too easy, I just don't do it. And I'm the type of individual, if something's easy, I won't do it. And often that results in the hard stress, challenge, and struggle. And you've seen it because, we've been together for most of our entire lives. And I don't always manage it the best. Like, I'm not a perfect person. I get angry. I don't hit, I don't kick, I don't scream. I just shut off and get locked in and disappear typically. But I use that. Life's about energies, right? So world's full of energy, positive energy, negative energy, sexual energy, religious energy, spiritual energy. Everything that you do and decisions you make is revolved around energy. If you read Tim Grover's books, Winning, right? When you look at that, the relentless side of like dark side energy and stress it's all at the end of the day just energy. Learn how to channel your energies into productive action. So there's something extremely powerful about getting rid of all vices. Vices are triggered by energy for the desire to solve an issue. Don't utilize that vice. Take that energy to attack the problem, and you'll accomplish it, and then you won't have an addiction or a vice. Then your addiction and vice is the process and the hard work. So when I get more stressed, what do? I try to quick reset, and then I attack it. And I take that anxiety, because I get bad anxiety and depression like everyone, and I funnel that, and I full-on frontal assault attack it. Any of those triggering energies in your life, use them to accomplish tasks. If it's not moving you forward, if you have an addiction, if you are a man and it's a sexual energy type thing, take that drive and energy, young men, and go do something productive with that energy. And then over time, you will learn to synthesize all this different energy and convert it into the productive action. That's how you can work and do all these things in a quarter of the time, because you're manipulating your own mind to chase the goal and to work hard. So I mitigate stress that way. I try to channel it, and I try to put it in productive action, and I try not to dwell on it. I try to move forward, and I have certain things for a quick reset that aren't a vice, and they're typically like get into nature, be around my wife, be around my kids. Surround yourself with like-minded people that can help you reset. If they're anchors, get rid of them. If they're telling you negativity, even if they're family, be done with them. The sooner you can do that, the easier the life is. So if I get down on myself, I've got a wife and kids to keep me in check, because they hold the same standards to be like, hey, quit moping, let's go. Most people aren't blessed that way, but that's how you build your life. I don't have a lot of friends for a reason. It's just very direct. So, okay. That was the end of question number 3.
All right. Well, that's all we have.
All right. So thank you guys for listening to this Q&A. Sorry, I was a little bit drawn out on the personal stuff. We've got a lot of stuff coming. We'll continue try to get you guys weekly episodes as we move into the moving of the new facility. Maybe we can get a little bit more behind the scenes on that on our YouTube channel. Make sure you're on the YouTube checking out for the video of this audio, Apple, Spotify, podcasts, everywhere podcasts are listen. Submit your Q&A questions, or if you have a request for a specific type of episode that you guys would like to see, that's what we're here to do. And yeah, hope everyone's safe and have a great day.